Honey, hush, don't you know I'm trying to record? Anyway, can you imagine being the cashier at Dollar Tree when I walked up to your cash register with this many seed packets? Oh, honey, I know she was pissed because she went through there and rang up every one of these little packets. Because think about it, by the time she would have tried to count them out and then do some type of quantity situation, she might as well have just went on ahead and rung them up. But anyway, y'all, never mind all that noise out here. It's a little traffic going on a street not too far from what I was saying, honey. Yeah, she had to go through each and every one of the each and each. Do you hear me? And every one of these. Which brings me to my point that I want to make. And that is when you decide to start gardening and you haven't been into it, you have to come up with a whole lot of startup money. Now, don't get me wrong. Each one of these packets was probably about 30 something cents a piece, 31 cents, something like that. I got the receipt. But baby, this is just a start. Now, let me tell you what I learned about seeds after I bought all of these. And then you can tell me what you think. And did I mention I went to Walmart and Lowe's and bought some more? Now, these weren't as cheap as the Dollar General, not Dollar General, honey, the Dollar Tree seeds, but they were on sale. So, this is what I thought about after the fact, and that is how long do these seeds last? So, according to AI, it depends on the seed type and it depends on how you store them, if you're able to keep pests away, any number of different things. So, it says for most vegetables, 2 to 3 years. For onions and chives and carrots and parsnips, 1 to 2 years. It says that cucumbers and cantaloupes can last, and brassicas can last for 5+ years. So again, proper storage is important, but I wasn't thinking about any of that when I bought the seeds. Now, here's what Reddit had to say. You know, they always have a lot of differing opinions about things, but child, I love to teleport right on into Reddit to see what they're talking about. So they were kind of on the same page with some things. Some people are about, I'm sorry, some people were saying it depends on the seeds, of course. Some have a higher germination rate. I think I saw an interesting one down here. This person said they had 15-year-old seeds to germinate, but then turn around and have new seeds that didn't do anything. So I guess it kind of varies. Yeah. So that's what Reddit had to say about all this. Now, you know, I had to go to my trusty, dusty Old Farmer's Almanac. And they did have an article on how long do seeds last? What's the viability? You see all these different seeds, and I'm pointing to the ones that look like what I have, like those dollar store seeds there with the marigolds and the fairy morse. But anyway, this one talks about how to know if the seeds are still good. And you can kind of read through this, and I'll try to leave the links to this in the description so you can go through it yourself and read the article. But it's pretty thorough about exactly what you need to do in order to find out, how long your seeds are going to last, what you can do to test them to see if they're still any good. Now, before you say anything, honey, I know the patio is dusty. Actually, that's not really dust. It's pollen and stuff, and I am highly allergic. So I have to take a picture and then go back on in the house. I can't stay out there too long. Where I live, there is definitely something blooming that bothers me to no end. Not the same on the patio where the garden is. But anyway, also, I wanted to bring up not just the cost of seeds, but starts cost a lot of money. Now, I will say it is money well spent, because I know for me, I ain't trying to have no greenhouse and do all that stuff, way early in the year. There may be some of you who are built like that, and maybe one day I will be built like that, but right now I am not. So I'm having to buy the stars from other folks. So you do have to make sure you get those planted. You can't just leave them out like you can, when you have seeds and you just waiting to see what you want to do with it. Now, I will say this, and I've mentioned it in another video. In gardening, 3 plus 3 can definitely equal 2, because sometimes your seeds aren't going to produce, and then sometimes your starts just die or they get eaten up by pests. I mean, they can be eaten by pests whether they were you bought them as starts or whether you grew them from seeds. So a lot of this is all in how you take care of your plants. Like my dad tells me all the time, with container gardening, you have to do what Mother Nature would do if you had planted these plants in the ground, in ground gardens. So you kind of got to be Mother Nature and manage. You got to pay more attention to the soil and the soil temperature and how much water is in the soil and the pests that come around, because a lot of that stuff is different simply because you have these things in containers. So anyway, I sure would love to know what you think about the upfront costs associated with a beginner farmer or starting a farm, because for a lot of you guys, you already have a whole storage of seeds that you've been collecting over the years. And some of you let some of your plants go to seed, and then you just, catalog those and keep them for future use, which I think is smart. That way you don't have to buy any seeds out of the store, once you have grown them for the first time. But it's just getting started that costs so much. And then there are so many other things, and we'll go into the other costs that I have had to pay since starting this little lovely endeavor of my teeny tiny patio garden. And this is, for people who want to start gardening, you need to know that, when you start, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but I do believe that it is worth it, worth it, worth it in the end, because once you make these upfront costs, some of these things you won't have to keep buying over and over again. Definitely that relates to your tools. Of course you will if they get worn out, but generally speaking, your tools, you buy those one time, and then you can keep using those over time. Your soil, you do not have to buy new soil, and I'm learning that. I don't think I would have been, silly enough to think I had to buy new soil, but you do have to buy things to augment it, like nutrition and perlite and things to kind of make the soil light, and to create, I guess, that potting mix type of consistency. So anyway, let me not talk too much, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. Trust me, there are many, many, many more people who know what they're talking about than me, but I am learning. And if you want to learn along with me, just keep following, subscribe, like. I definitely like to have you around. If you just want to kiki a little bit about this whole gardening thing, say something to me in the comments. I will definitely respond. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and chatting about these seeds and starts in this little teeny tiny garden that I got going on. I appreciate your company. I am enjoying some of the comments that I have gotten, and they have been very positive. I had one little negative sucker say something stupid, but I ignore that. Anyway, come back soon. Take care. Bye-bye.